Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
So about CBSE, you don't need any introduction. It's a premier national board in the country. And it is a pioneer in introducing reforms in school education. It has presence in India as well as 26 foreign countries. Around 25,000 schools are part of the CBSE system as of now. More than 2.5 crore children are part of the CBSE, and more than 12 lakh teachers are also part of CBSE. So this shows the magnitude of the CBSE system. The prime focus of CBSE is to lay down educational standards through affiliation. It also focuses on reforms in examinations and evaluation practices, innovations in teaching learning methodologies by devising student-centered paradigm. This is another focus area of the board. You cannot control the past, but you can control where to go next. This is the famous words of Christine Hubbard. So this is the focus of board in the coming years, journey to education to achieve excellence. Board is aiming to create an ecosystem to bring excellence in schools. So to move ahead, to move away from rote learning to competency-based education, equipping students with the 21st century skills, reforming the examination pattern, training teachers in experiential and other learning-centric pedagogies, international benchmarking of assessment. These are all various focus areas of the board to take the education to the next level. Curricular and pedagogical reforms. What are the reforms envisioned by the board due to the implementation of the new national education policy? The board has already adopted learning outcomes and their mapping with the curriculum, which you are aware. We have already released different manuals on this. Principals have been designated as pedagogical leaders and preparation of annual pedagogical plan. Different sessions are also already introduced by the Center of Excellence for the principals and teachers in this regard. The vision of the school leadership matters a lot for bringing quality education in the institutions. All the developed countries where education is a priority, like Singapore, Finland, Sweden, wherever you go, the school leadership has a clear vision. Whenever you interact with leaders of those developed nations, they always come out with a vision plan for the institution. And based on that vision, they are able to handhold the entire school system towards development. This is what CBSE is also planning for its school leaders. We have already designated all the principals as pedagogical leaders. So this is to attract the attention of every principal towards academics of the school. You are too much involved with the administrative aspects of the school functioning, but that is also very important. But that is not the only function of the principal. Principals are actually the academic head of the institution. So to clearly draw your attention on this and to prepare a pedagogical plan. Pedagogical plan doesn't mean lesson plan for the school. It is a vision document that needs to be created by every school leader to handhold the institution, to guide the institution, to lead the institution in the developmental continuum. Introduction of 2 level of mathematics. This is as part of the recommendation of the new national education policy. To give opportunity to the learner to learn at learner's own pace and interest. So to facilitate every learner to go ahead with learning according to the aptitude and ability of the learner, the board has already introduced two-level course in mathematics. In class 9 and 10, there is standard mathematics and basic mathematics. And in classes 11 and 12, there is mathematics and there is an applied mathematics course. So this is only a beginning, and more such two-level courses are waiting. So next year, in languages, we will be introducing. Then in the coming years, after the coming of the national curriculum framework, more and more courses will have two-level subjects. So this is also in waiting. Then implementation of experiential learning pedagogies like art and sports integrated learning, storytelling and gaming, mainstreaming of health and physical education, introduction of art integrated project work for classes 1 to 10, all are part of bringing active learning and interventive pedagogy in the classroom of the CBSE affiliated schools. So art integrated pedagogy, sports integrated pedagogy, experiential learning, joyful learning, all these are various ways to nurture creative learning of the learners. So as school leaders and principals, your active participation, your clear understanding of the policies implemented by the board or introduced by the board is required to take this journey forward. So competency-based education, what we are looking for by competency-based education? The first and foremost characteristics of competency-based education is personalized learning, allowing the learner to learn at his own pace, according to the interest, talent, aptitude, and ability of the learner. He should provide a learning opportunity. Advancement over mastery. This is another character. Measurable explicit competencies. So after class 10 or class 12 or even every child required to exhibit certain level of competencies and skill set. So these competencies are measurable. These competencies are connected with learning outcome. So a clear understanding of these competencies and measuring these competencies through the assessment of the board, that is envisioned through the competency-based education. Clear learning outcomes, differentiated timely support. So wherever the learner is required support, that support needs to be provided by the system. So that is also part of the competency-based education. A meaningful and positive assessment of the student. These are all various aspects of competency-based education. And through this competency-based education, the new national education policy and the CBSE system as a whole is envisioned to bring competent citizens for our country. So creating an ecosystem for competency-based education in the CBSE schools, what are the things we need to do? One is content of the curriculum, the mandatory adoption of the learning outcome and their mapping with the curriculum has already been done. A detailed document is available on CBSE's academic website, which can be downloaded and gone through by every school leader. Planning of lessons by selecting developmentally appropriate content. Teacher resources at Diksha can also be used for competency-based education. The handbooks and manual released by the board, these are also very much helpful to carry on with the competency-based education. So pedagogy is the heart of implementing the curriculum. So as part of the pedagogy, preparation of the annual pedagogical plans, implementation of experience learning pedagogy, mandatory art and sports integrated learning, connecting all learners with the real life. That is another area. So connecting the learning with the real life, that is the core of competency-based education and its pedagogy. So to achieve this, huge capacity building is required. Capacity building of teachers through online teacher training module on competency-based education, which is available on Diksha. There are also self-learning materials available on Diksha. CBSE's Center of Excellence is also organizing different training programs to promote competency-based education. Introduction of case-based questions in the examinations of the board. By the year 2025, 50 to 60% of the board examination questions will be based on competency-based. So these will include case-based questions, source-based questions, and questions more application-oriented that will test core competency, skill set, and ability of the learner in problem solving and application of the concepts. Those kinds of questions will be asked in the board examinations. So that needs huge capacity building of our learner, our teachers, and the system as a whole. So multiple modes of assessment like portfolios, MCQs, reflective assessments, all are designed by the board, and how the teachers are implementing these tools in the classroom for assessment as learning or assessment for learning, that depends upon the success of the competency-based education. Our teachers should be able to use assessment as a tool for the growth of the child, development of the child, and it should be used as a tool for development of the child. So creative and critical thinking weekly practices launched by the board on the Diksha platform is another support mechanism from the side of the board towards this direction. Out of the box thinking, that is what is required for our child. Now, at present, our entire teaching, learning, and assessment depends upon content-based. So let us move out from this content-based learning to competency-based learning. By hearting the things and forgetting after the examination will not help the learner in the real life scenario. So prepare the learner to meet the challenges of the 21st century and meet the challenges of the life while they are in the classroom. Capacity building, and in the Diksha, there are training programs available. And at the same time, CBSE's Center of Excellence training programs are also available. Soon we will be coming out with a principals engagement program with all the reforms introduced by the CBSE to familiarize the school leaders. And the school leaders in turn will orient all the teachers in the school. And through a cascading model, we are planning to take these reforms to the grassroots level in the years to come. So certain manuals and handbooks released by the CBSE will definitely help capacity building of the stakeholders. There is a 21st century handbook on cyber safety, comic book on question bank. These are all books for the children. Teachers' resource for achieving learning outcome. This is the document with the mapping of the learning outcome with the content. So this can be used as a base document to prepare the teachers for the competency-based education. Handbook on inclusive education, handbook on joyful learning, physical education handbook, mathematical literacy practice book. Then teachers energized resource manual. There are 10 manuals for classes 6 to 10 in science and mathematics. All these material will help the teachers and the learners to bring competency-based education in the classroom. The curricular and engagement activities planned by the board for the students, such as Aryabhatta Ganit Challenge, Heritage India Quiz, Ek Bharat Shrestha Bharat activities, CBSE Science Challenge, CBSE Science Exhibition, CBSE Khelo India activities, Expression Series, Reading Challenge. All these empowerment activities of the students are for building competencies in the students. You can encourage your students to participate in this program, and also you can plan these kind of activities in your own institution. So all these will help the learner to master competency. So what the board is going to do in the assessment and examination reforms. So board has already strengthened the structure of internal assessment in all subjects by dividing it into pen and paper section, multiple assessment activities like projects, portfolio, subject enrichment activities, and given due weightage for this internal assessment in the final examination. Already there is a minimum 20% weightage of internal assessment across the subjects in both class 10 and class 12. So this needs to be further strengthened. For strengthening this, we have to ensure that the assessment happening in the school is realistic and reliable and valid. So if you take the example of the practical or the internal assessment mark, there is a huge disparity in the mark obtained by the learners in theory portion as well as the mark awarded in the practical component or the internal assessment component. This shows that hand-holding, nurturing, as well as controlling is required in the internal assessment mechanism or the practical assessment mechanism. When this huge responsibility or the power is given to the institutions, you have to discharge it very diligently and accurately. If you do not assess the students in a realistic manner, in a valid manner and reliable manner, the whole philosophy will be lost and the whole purpose will be defeated. So huge capacity building is required, and with a clear vision, this assessment needs to be done in the schools. So in the years to come, more and more control over the way in which the schools are exercising this unlimited power of internal assessment delegated to the institutions will be done by the board to bring control in the internal assessment mechanism. As we have already seen, 2-level mathematics examination to meet the different kind of learners to reduce overall stress level of the students. It is already introduced by the board. Then another major step is preparation of competency-based test items for classes 1 to 5. So this is also a mechanism to handhold the schools. So competency-based items are there in the class 10 and 12 board examination, but the children needs to be handholded from the beginning. Handholding should happen from the early years. So these kind of sample items will be prepared by the board and released to the institutions through our website. So the teachers can examine, can refer these items and then start preparing these items at their own level. So this also takes time, but every institution should start or encourage your teachers in moving towards this competency-based assessment. Introduction of competency-based items. The task modifying design of question paper by adding 10% questions testing application of knowledge and skills in real life context in each successive years till the year 2025. This I have already mentioned. By the year 2025, our board exam paper will have 50 to 60% competency-based questions. So this is a gradual change. All of a sudden, if this change is brought in, our children will face problems and they will not get good marks in the examination, and they will face difficulty in getting admission in the institutions. So in the years to come, the new national education policy has already recommended for establishment of PAREC. Once the PAREC, a national level assessment agency for different state boards, is established, PAREC will set standards for assessment across the country for different state boards. So once PAREC sets standards, every school board's assessment will be regulated through their controlling mechanism. Till then, our reforms can create problems. So that is why we are going slow. So, but by the year 2025, our question papers will have 60% competency-based questions. So by then, every institution affiliated to the board should prepare their teachers and students to move towards competency-based learning as well as assessment. provision of improvement examination has already been started. So today, in fact, the first improvement examination has commenced across the centers in India and abroad. And CBSE is also planning to establish a center for assessment in the board itself. So the purpose of this Center for Assessment, Center for Excellence in Assessment, is to support in the implementation of key stage assessment in class 3, 5, and 8. Already the Honorable Prime Minister of India has announced the SAFL, Structured Assessment for Learning. This is an assessment which is going to be launched by, which has already been announced, but going to be launched by the board from the next academic session. There will be a competency-based assessment for the students of classes 3, 5, and 8. And this assessment is a kind of practice exercise for the students. And this assessment will happen on a digital platform. The requirement of minimum digital infrastructure in the school will be notified. Based on that, all of you can prepare your computer lab accordingly. This exam will happen over a period of 1 month. So a huge question bank will be created on a particular day. Suppose if your school is having a capacity of 40 computers in your school, 40 students can appear for the examination. Instantly, question paper will be generated. They will be giving answer on the screen, and this will be evaluated. And these test items will be mapped with this competency, skill set, and aptitude of the learner. And this will give feedback to the learners and the school system as a whole. Your school's performance can also be assessed and evaluated through this SAFL exercise. But this will not decide the pass-fail criteria of the child. We don't want to keep it as a high-stake examination. This has to be a low stage assessment, which should really help the learner to identify his true potential. And in case of any learning gap, the system, the school, should be able to bridge that gap and support the learner to continue and achieve his learning goals. So to conduct capacity development program for the key stakeholders, this is also an objective of the Center for Excellence in Assessment. To develop resource material on assessment and evaluation, to provide support for ensuring reliability and validity of the assessment tools, to build in-house capacity in psychometric with a special focus on IRT analysis, to carry out action research on assessment and evaluation. These are all various research mechanisms the Center for Assessment will be doing to support teaching learning and bringing innovative assessment strategies in the board examinations, as well as other examinations conducted by the board. So the third element is systemic reforms. So key stage examination, I have already mentioned. This key stage examination or the SAFL, this will be rolled out for the students of class 3, 5, and 8. It will be a diagnostic tools to identify the learning aptitude and learning level of the child. And it will help this system as a whole to measure the learning achievement, age-appropriate learning achievement, and achievement of learning outcome by the learner. And it will also help the learner to measure the ability acquired in applying the concept in the real life scenario. The question will be designed in such a way that will measure the capacity and competency of the learner. So that is why at the initial stage, we don't want to link it with pass-fail of the children. So it will take time to evolve the mechanism, but till then, this will act as a feedback tool or as a mechanism to support the development of the child. It will help the teacher to guide their instruction and improve students' learning, help students to improve their own learning. It will be a diagnostic assessment conducted in an uncertaining manner. So it will not decide the pass-fail criteria of the child. So whether the child will pass to the next class, that will still be decided by the annual examinations conducted by the school. It will facilitate all-round development of the students. It will help summarize about the quality of the student learning in the environment, in the school. So you will get a clear feedback about the institution and how well your institution is prepared to meet the challenges of the 21st century and in the teaching learning in the new direction and new dimension. So based on this feedback, you can also you can also make corrective steps, introduce corrective steps in the functioning of your institution. So a big shift from access to education to quality of education. Quality of education, focus of both service providers and the consumers, the students alike. That is the focus of the competency-based education. So in view of great need to improve quality of school education, CBSE has developed a standard framework for school quality assessment. That is yet another step introduced by the board. That is school quality assessment and assurance framework. This is an accreditation mechanism, which will also happen in an uncertaining manner. Initially, self-learning and peer learning will happen at the institutional level with the help of an IT system. So this IT system is almost ready. It will be launched very soon for a pilot project. And by next year, it will be linked with the extension of affiliation of the schools. But this will also be used as a tool for development of the institution. All the institutions will get feedback mechanism based on the school quality and assessment and assurance framework. So initially, you will get feedback. You will be given enough opportunity to improve. Then later on, you can go for external validation. So external validation will be mandated by the board after seeing that all institutions are familiarized themselves with the score process. And once this external validation is launched, then the schools will have to face external validation for continuation of its functioning as part of the CBSE system. The objective is to go for whole school transformation through school quality assessment and assurance. It will enable schools to deliver quality education. So the objective of the SQUA framework are the whole school transformation and quality enhancement, recognition of excellence, promotion of accountability, and improvement of the school leaders. So it has a SQUA framework. So it will have self-assessment tool for schools to review their own performance against the predefined indicators. It will focus on continuous school improvement and quality performance and enable schools to charter self-improvement plans. Self-explanatory and non-threatening framework. No ranking of school will happen through SQUA. There will be provision of hand-holding, support, and mentorship for the schools. So it will help the school to achieve effective scholastic processes. It will also build strong leadership in the institution, emphasis on post-scholastics areas, and it will also promote inclusive practices in the schools. So our aim is to take our education to the next level. It should not be less than IB or IGCSE or any other international boards on the globe. So the PISA practices the program for the international assessment. So you must be aware that in the last PISA assessment happened in 2009, our position was 72nd out of the 73 countries participated in PISA exercise. So PISA will measure the ability and competency of the system, wherein the learner, how capable the learner is to apply the concepts in the real life scenario. So how well the learners are prepared to meet the challenges of the 21st century. That is the measurement happening in PISA. So in that kind of an international assessment, we could not achieve well because we need to shift from the current content-oriented teaching to competency-based education. So education 4.0 is aiming for that. And we are still continuing with that old traditional way of teaching and learning. All other countries across the world has moved away from this content-based learning to competency-based learning. So it's part of the social transformation. There are background needs to be made for this transformation. So with the coming of the new national education policy and with the huge shift from the focus of content to competency-based education and the quality of education, we will be able to achieve this transition, change, and bring new reforms in the school sector. The so many national education policies introduced in the country could not achieve its target because we were miserably failed in implementing the recommendations on ground. So that gap needs to be identified and filled this time. Then only our country can transform itself as a developed nation by bringing reforms in the field of education. For converting India as a developed nation, we have to transform our citizens and empower our citizens. And this empowerment will happen through educational transformations. That is my presentation. And about the assessment, the change in the assessment pattern introduced in the current academic session. So this has been introduced as a pandemic. This has been introduced as an alternative to pandemic situation, wherein last year you have seen assessment has not happened because of the situation, but this year we should not face the same problem. So let us introduce something new which can meet the challenges of the pandemic. So at least every child should be able to appear for one examination. That is the idea of introducing this two-time exam this year. So the first time examination will happen in November and December, and second time will happen in February, March. So the syllabus has been divided into two parts, term 1 and term 2. This term 1 has will cover in term 1 examination, and term 2 will cover in term 2 examination. There will not be any overlapping. So the topics of term 1 will come only for the term 1 examination, and topics of term 2 will come only for term 2 examination. There will not be overlap. So the children need not study the entire syllabus throughout. Already the rationalization has happened. Last year, 30% reduction of syllabus has happened. It has been announced. So this term-wise divided syllabus is based on the rationalized syllabus. But as we have already announced, you are supposed to teach the entire syllabus to the children, because there should not be learning gap. But that teaching can happen to the extent the concepts are required for the child to continue his vertical mobility. So you have the freedom. The teachers are the best judge. So many teachers have apprehension that whether this kind of a reduction may lead to learning gap, whether our children will be able to appear for the entrance examination, whether they will be clear the entrance examination. See, for learning purpose, the syllabus is intact. But for the assessment purpose, that 30% reduction has been done. And this reduction has been done to reduce the stress level of children. Many schools, many students are not able to cope up with the online teaching. So distance learning is happening. Students with the good facilities and internet connectivity and other, availability of the digital instruments, all are very important to continue with the online teaching and blended teaching, which is not equally distributed for the entire student population in our country. We have a diverse student population. We have children from the remote rural areas, economically weaker section. We have to take everybody together in this journey. Everybody is equally affected, but we cannot ignore their pathetic situation, their learning gap. And because of that, this 30% reduction has been done. Again, we are not able to go ahead with online examination because everybody cannot afford an online examination. That is why, we are planning for this two-time examination. But at the same time, it should reduce the stress level of the children. The children should not be at so much stress for examination. So to mitigate the pandemic effect, this new scheme has been introduced. Already the new national education policy has recommended for reducing the exam stress and also to reduce the high stake nature of the board examination as a low stake nature, then only the learning will happen. So if the examination remain as high stake one, all will go for the rat race of achieving high mark. So in that rat race, learning for life will take the backseat. That should not happen. To make our citizens as competent and capable citizens, real learning should happen in the classrooms. So with this, real learning will happen when they are free from the race of earning marks. So in the years to come, the National Testing Agency or any other agency identified the government will come out with various aptitude tests for admission to higher education institutions. Many institutions have already introduced. In the days to come, that will happen. So once that is happened, then automatically the high stake nature of the board examination will change, and more opportunity will be available for the school to experiment innovative pedagogy, more engaging pedagogies, and project-based learning, active learning, art integrated learning, project sports integrated learning. All these are various innovative pedagogies to connect the learner with the real life. So the thumb rule will be the ability of the learner to apply the concepts in real life scenario. The aptitude and skill set gained by the learner in the school days, and how prepared he is to meet the challenges of the adult life. That will be the focus of school education in the coming years. And with the new focus and new ray of hope given by the new national education policy, we will move forward. We will also use the present two-time examination as a pilot, how it works. Let us see. Based on that, we can also consider it as a tool for designing the assessment strategies in the days to come. So, but for this year, the focus is to have at least one examination in the current academic session, so that a realistic assessment of the child will happen. So we don't need to go for any alternative ways of assessment. Based on the current year's performance of the child, we can declare the result, which has already been clearly mentioned in the circular released by the board. And at the same time, equal importance is given to the internal assessment and various examinations conducted internally, periodical assessments, project work, portfolios, all those informal assessment. Everything is very valid and important this year. And validity and reliability of the assessments happening in the institution, which is in your hand. So that should be retained. But board will clearly intervene wherever there is a visible gap in the internal assessment as well as the board examination results. In the days to come, now we are not intervening, but in the years to come, that intervention will happen. Every school will have to follow certain standard. Our school means our school should follow certain standards. And based on that standard, the board's overall standard will be developed. Suppose if CBSE children are getting admission into NIE Singapore, National Institute of Education Singapore, based on the mark secured in the class 12 examinations, because of the standard maintained by us.